Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 is called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Grow. Mr. Melvin. Chairman Wendell.
Here.
Mr. Arabi. Mr. Otan. Mrs. Chasson. Mr. Lorraine. President Chasson.
If everyone would please rise, our invocation will be led by Mr. Lorraine, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Chasson.
I don't think I called Mr. T-Boo's name.
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Ms. Carleen, just for the record, Mr. William Adams is absent.
Is absent tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on behalf of the council, we'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. If you'd like to address the council, please fill out a blue public wishing to address the council form located by the entrance door and turn it into the council clerk prior to the beginning of the public address session. Please silence any cellular or other communication device as to avoid interruptions. As we proceed through the meeting, public comment will be offered on each of the ordinances for ratification before council discussion and voting. As we move through the resolutions, only the council will discuss prior to voting. To get started, we have item A, approval of minutes. I have a motion by Ms. Chasson, a second by Mr. Jones to accept the minutes of March 8, 2022 regular session. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item B, Lafourche Parish Outstanding Citizen. Okay, we don't have an outstanding citizen, or you have something, aren't you? No. Okay. We did have a committee put together of a few people from the sheriff's office, from the council, and we lost a few people here and there. We do have some nominations that came in, and I apologize to the people who nominated because they did follow the proper procedure and process in getting this stuff submitted. And actually, it was me that dropped the ball because we don't have a formal committee in place because as we lost some folks, we didn't replace them. So you guys that are on the council, if y'all want to think about it tonight and get with me after, hopefully we can get 2 or 3 people put together. We can even keep it in-house on the council. It'll be very informative. No meetings. We won't have enough to have a quorum, but we can communicate by cell phone, email, whatever, and review some of these things to start recognizing these citizens again on a regular basis. So if that's something that you are interested in, you can get with me, let me know your thoughts and feelings on it, and then I'll get a couple of people appointed, and we'll get that started again. And once again, to the folks that have nominated people and followed the process, we do apologize for any delay and inconvenience in that. Item C, proclamation. Item 2, Parish President Archie Chasson will present a proclamation proclaiming April 2022 as Child Abuse Awareness Month. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas child abuse and neglect are serious problems affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas our children are the most valuable resource that will shape our future. And whereas child abuse can have a long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote social and emotional well-being of children and families that have a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now therefore, I, Archie Chasson, Parish President of Lafourche, do hereby proclaim April 22 as Child Abuse Awareness Month. And I don't think there's anybody here to accept it, Mr. Chairman, but we'll get it to him.
All righty. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you to those folks for their efforts. Moving on to item D, state or federal legislative updates. We did have FEMA scheduled to come out to answer questions and give a presentation or to give a talk and explanation on the temporary camps or trailer sites that are proposed around the parish and neighboring parishes that are going to affect Lafourche Parish. Due to the weather, travel, they called, and travel was not advisable for them according to their policy. Was anyone here for that particular thing? Okay, I apologize for that. We didn't find out until right before the meeting. We will call a special meeting next Tuesday, March 29th, at 6 p.m. here. President Chasson has contacted the FEMA folks to let them know the date and the time. They didn't want to make it last or make it wait until the next session. And for us to have a public meeting, we have a certain amount of days that we have to advertise that. So next Tuesday, March 29th at 6 p.m. here at the council meeting room, we will have representatives from FEMA to talk about those sites and explanations and be able to answer any questions that you guys have. So once again, sorry for the short notice, but we were not informed until the 11th hour. Okay, item D. Anybody else, state and federal? All right, we'll give you guys a few minutes, and once again, sorry to make you travel in this weather.
He has, fill out a blue sheet, just in case.
Jim, I have a question. You mentioned that FEMA's going to come and take questions from the public? That's what Jim just said. We need to be clear on if that's the case or not.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, I don't think they're going to quote unquote engage like with a question and answer section. I think they'll address them like out in the lobby if they have any questions.
Okay.
This is more of a presentation that goes through the process, how these 4 sites were selected, the environmental health and preservation review process, and then what the plan is kind of moving forward with whether as of our call last Friday, they still have not, GSA has not engaged the landowner to talk numbers yet. So we're still pretty far out from any type of process. But in talking with John Long this afternoon, when he called to say they weren't coming, they did not want to wait until the 12th, which was the next regularly scheduled council meeting, because they didn't want to drag out the process. If they had issues they had to correct, they didn't want to wait 3 weeks and then have another 3 weeks of trying to correct those comments. They wanted to do it as quick as they could.
Now, do we have to have this as a council meeting in case we don't have a quorum present? Or can this be just a public meeting?
Hold on. Yeah, point of order. I mean, so I have the mic. Do I have the floor right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with all due respect, I mean, you can't keep blurting out. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, if the residents are not going to be able to engage FEMA here, it's just for them to give us an informative. At what point can residents engage FEMA? Because this is their monkey. It's not ours.
It's not ours.
So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can set up where they can engage FEMA directly with them to get their answers question versus this kind of circle that's going to be going on.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking. That's why I wanted to make sure that we're clear with the residents on what's going to happen on Tuesday.
So I guess to Chairman Wendell's point, if we just want to publicize it as a public notice perspective, then it's not truly a council meeting. You can have some Q&A between the residents, and we can allow. I mean, in my mind, even tonight, if FEMA got up, you still had that public wishing to address the council phase. If there wasn't anything asked, then the resident could come up and ask the question basically to Jim as the chair, and then FEMA could always come back up and answer it. But we can do something. I mean, it doesn't have to be a formal council meeting. In case you can't get a quorum, we can just publicize it as a public notice.
Let's do it as a public notice. I'll be here to assist, and I know the parish administrator will be here as well, but I think that would be better than a special meeting. And maybe there could be more dialogue and people can get more questions answered, because as you said, it's not us, we have no information. Mr. Grove?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest, more of a town hall, but if you could put out some sort of an agenda, and Jim, if you would agreeing to be the moderator, I think that would help too, to keep some structure to it.
I can definitely do that.
I need to check schedules and see if I could be. I'd hate for the quorum thing to hold it up.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so we'll move forward with that. Okay, presentations and our updates. Item 3, Mr. Spence Griasoni, Fire Protection District Number 9, to present his annual report. Mr. Spence, please remember to state your name and address for the record, sir.
Spence Griasoni, 213 Different Street, Gainesville, Indiana.
Mr. Spence. Turn the mic.
Just press the button.
There we go.
And
Spence
yeah,
Griasoni,
there you go.
213 Dufresne Street, Gaines, Louisiana.
I actually put together a little PowerPoint very quickly to actually help me get through all of this pretty quickly. Ward 8, Fire District 9 covers Ward 8 with the exception of Home Place. It's approximately 97 square miles, about 1,250 people, about 430 homes. It's the parish taxing entity responsible for providing fire protection, and that is key. This is the entity for fire protection, because we do a lot more than just fire protection. We have a 10 mil tax that's raising right now about $60,000. We get revenue sharing of $7,265. Insurance rebate for $4,853. So last year, these are last year numbers of $72,000. We have a central station, which is a 4-bay station at 2237 Highway 654. Our fleet is VG5. It's a 1,500 gallon per minute, 300 gallon tank. This one is still in a lease purchase. We pay about $25,000 a year for this engine. VG7 is a hose tender we've had for several years. It carries about 3,500 feet of 5-inch LDH. VG8 is a 1,250 gallon per minute, 1,000 gallon tank, and VG9 is currently out of service. The pump failed tests some years ago, but it is still part of their fleet. We're hanging on to it because one day we hope to change the pump out. It's a really good truck. We also have a contract with the Vasher Gaines Volunteer Fire Company for $4,500 a year. That's basically based off of the insurance rebate. This contract gives the fire company the authority over the District 9 assets, where the district pays for all repairs, insurance, fuel, and utilities, and the fire company basically provides the manpower and the daily function of those activities. We do also have assets. The Dufresne Station is a 1-bay station on 105 South Leon. We have equipment, all of the radio equipment, the VHF repeater, that got hit and damaged for the storm. We actually got a replacement this week. I'll be able to start putting that back up. Pagers, 700 mobiles, radios, that's all belonging equipment to the fire company. The main station, which is the fire district's property, but the generator itself belongs to the fire company. FEMA had a problem with that, as well as all the Scott Air Packs. Our fleet consists of one chief vehicle, an assistant chief vehicle, and we also have VG6, which was a donation. We're putting in service as a service truck. It has a 1,500 gallon per minute pump and also carries, actually it's 500 gallons. The 2 chief vehicles were actually donated by the sheriff, so I want to thank the sheriff for that. The fire district and company together, Fire District 9 has a class rating, a PIL, class rating of 4, and if you notice, it's LDH, large diameter hose. That's why I have that truck that has that 3,500. We're the only ones in the state of Louisiana that actually has to perform this function. In 2021, we had 134 calls. We were down about 35%. Typically, we run about 200 calls. Now, this is 200 calls overall. We have a very good working relationship with our neighboring departments, Lockport as well as District 1. So we go where we need it, and that's throughout the parish, and anybody that needs us, we'll be there. We had 39 vehicle accidents, 50 fires that we responded to, and 45 emergencies, medical emergencies. In Gaines alone, we had 3 car accidents, 12 fires, and 23 medical requests. You got to have heart to achieve success. So in 2021, we did that, and we took over a lot more with COVID, and everybody else knows Ida. But we also continued. We did LSFA hot drills. We had the first fair in the parish, and it went over tremendously. They needed a lot of help. We were there. We also started our own CPR training agency. We were already recognized by the state as an EMS training agency because we train our own. In 2021, we had certifications. Christina Araby, EMT. Luke Cresoni, he got his hazmat awareness. Annette Araby, she got her Instructor 1 and Instructor 2 in the same year. And that's also a firefighter 2. Katie also got her Instructor 3. Oops. And Adam Chauvin did the same thing. He got his Instructor 1 and Instructor 2. These fire instructors are on their way to becoming nationally registered EMRs, and they're going to aid with our EMS instruction. And remember, this is all paid through our own budget. We operate on that small budget of $4,500 from the fire district and any donations that we can get from wherever. This year is our property insurance grading year. We're going to continue aggressive 2022 certifications. We got to rework some of our dry hydrants. Some of these in the areas of where they're actually reworking the levees around the community, and we're going to train on them. But basically, we're the sum of our life's experiences. But our fire company is the sum of our members' hearts. Hydrant flow tests show that our hydrants are substandard, and we've talked about it with you guys extensively over the last 3 years. The project's about $2.5 million. I believe y'all have 1 million earmarked. We're trying to find the other 1.5 million. I can reduce my fleet. I don't have to carry that LDH if I get this done. Another impact that is happening, and I will ask this, you guys, I need your help. You know, I'm asking as the district, who is the one that you put us in charge of fire protection, but this needs to be taken care of. All right. Something else that's happening that's affecting everybody on the Bayou. LSU Fetty was the prime trainer that did all of the training for the state. That has been switched over to Louisiana State Fire Marshal's Office and Fire Emergency Training Academy. There are some delays in the training that we used to see back for the January through March that did not happen this year. So what this reflects is that, like I said, it's our grading year. That means I'm not going to get credit for those grading years. That means my rating may go down. Our homeowners are going to pay more for insurance. And that's what the training center credit does for us. We need training facilities. We need some place to go. Thibodeau has a training facility. It's kind of far out the way to take everybody from this area and run up there and do a training. District 3 has also offered for us to train down there, but again, it's the same problem. We may need to come up with something for the central area. And I've already explained that our financial situations. A couple other things here that's not on the slides. I just showed that we had collected $60,000 approximately from the ad valorem. That's going to get cut another $15,000 from what I'm told. I still haven't met with the assessor's office, so I got to come up with another $15,000. Off the cuff, we have a $25,000 note. We have $20,000 in insurance. So 60 minus 15 is 45, and the rest, what I got left to run the department and run everything else. We're in a bind. Not to mention, we still got to repair the station, the roof, the generator, the ceiling, the hood. We also got to try and erect the tower. I've been working diligently with FEMA, and some things look like it's going to come through, but as FEMA didn't even show up here today, you never know when you're going to get something from them. So we're pushing along. Hopefully we can make what we're going to do. One additional comment, last year the ambulance district approved to buy some CPR mannequins, which we did buy last year. They've reimbursed us this year, and we started training people in CPR, not just our people, but the public at large. We're going to expand that into Stop the Bleed as well. Any questions?
Anybody with anything for Spence? Mr. Araby.
Yes, Spence, I just want to thank you for coming out here and giving us a very informative report, letting everybody know exactly, what y'all have, what type of equipment y'all have and things like that. But also, you mentioned something about a training center. It's my understanding that Lafourche Parish District 1 bought some property and they plan on working on trying to get a training center there. So that'll help y'all along, down the road. Not sure when it's gonna take place, but they have the property already.
It will, if everything would have fell in line to where it was pre-Ida, it'd have happened. We'd have had a training facility here in the central Lafourche area. However, District 1 opted to push things to the back, make sure they have enough money so they don't fall into any shortfalls, and the sacrifice was the training center. Unfortunately, District 1 is also in their grading year. They're close enough to Thibodeau where they can actually pull people and have enough people to run up to Thibodeau and train up there. So they'll be able to get theirs. I won't.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, that's the plans for that area there. So, again, thank you for coming out, giving that report. Anything that I can do for y'all as being y'all councilman for that area, and let me know, and I'll do what I can.
Water line.
Working on that too.
Anyone else with anything for Spence? Thank you, Spence, appreciate it. All right, item F, legal advisory report, we have none. Item G, engineers and architects reports. Anyone with an engineer architects report? All right, item H, it is not yet 6 o'clock, so I have a motion by Mr. Jones. Can I get a second to deviate from the regular agenda? Second by Mr. Araby to deviate from the regular agenda item to continue the meeting until public hearing time. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 4, public wishing to address the council. Ms. Carleen.
Item 4 is public wishing to address the council for your,
Oh, for mine.
correct. It's going to be aye.
Aye. Public wishing to address the council, Ms. Carleen.
Mr. Plaisance, you still would like to speak, sir? Well, state your name and address for the record, Mr. Plaisance. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
Can you put the microphone on?
I think it's all.
Taylor Plaisance, 264 East 123rd Street, Galliana, Louisiana, 70354. Wife had sent y'all some pictures. That picture was before the storm. That was my storages. That was my trailer park, my
We'll have
apartment.
to pull it closer to you.
That was my trailer park. That was my apartments. That was my camper park. Okay? Now this was before. This is the strip of land I own. It's 1,000 feet wide, 1.5 miles long. My business is just in the front. This is what I came home to, and we had all the discussion of the trash about. Where's the right of way where y'all can pick up trash 5 feet off of that? This is what I had left. But we're building new parks. Why can't we come build back an old one? That's my camper park. That's the whole business what I had left. The apartments are gone, everything's gone. But we're gonna go and develop new parks to turn back the natural land after the parks become, kids used to feed ducks, kids used to play soccer, kids used to have fun. It was a neighborhood. Now we're putting them on cement slabs wrapped in fences. Y'all training them in the wrong direction. My kids grew up with a fishing line in their hand. Kept them out of trouble. Got an 11th grader with 4.3 average. He's taking college courses. Now, this is all I'm asking. Why we got to go and develop something new compared to come and help a common, simple person that been since day one. Look, yo, I used to have a full beard. I'm 2/3 there. My land's getting empty. As soon as all they got to do is come start putting them. But they're going to build a whole nother infrastructure. Whenever all they got to do is just come in and I'll bring the rise out the ground because the infrastructure's there. I got enough room on my land that I can put every park that FEMA wants to build can be built on one stretch. And I don't want it turned back into natural land. I want it waiting for the next natural disaster for the help. It's dealing with educated idiots. I'm sorry for using the language that I'm using. But this is a common man's livelihood. This is what my kids' inheritance turned into. And I'm gonna build it back, whether they come or not. But just remember, it's all of our tax dollars that's gonna get laid in a row, and then it's gonna get bulldozed out and thrown back in the garbage. Whenever there's opportunities that I've been praising for, come build it. We'll negotiate $100 a month lot rent, anything. All I'm looking for is to get infrastructure back, and I'll pay for the upgrades or whatever they want to do. But I don't want the infrastructure to disappear for no reason.
Okay, anybody with any questions for Mr. Plaisance?
I mean, I'm just,
Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, how many units you had there before the storm?
before the storm, I had about 150 mini storages. We had 9 apartments, a washateria. We had 38 trailer sites, and we had 60 camper sites. So I'm not even close, not even a tenth of the sites that they're trying to establish, and I can't get them,
Well, I know in my district, I'm gonna speak in my district.
you know?
I got about 12 RV parks besides yours, and they wanna put a new RV park north of Earl's Place. Now, my opinion, now this is just my opinion, some of y'all might agree, some might disagree. I think a FEMA trailer should be put on the property's owner that own, if he could put it. Some people can't. They don't have the room. They might have a cousin, they might have an uncle. That's where it should be put. But like I said, there's some people that can't. But I'm a firm believer in why not use what you have? Don't go build some new ones when I get 12 of them in my district, gentlemen, more than the whole parish. So let's utilize what we have. And then if we don't have enough room, then you look at building something new.
I've been through the planning commission. I'm a trailer park already. Why we gotta wait to plan something?
And this guy
All we gotta get
lost-
done is build.
Lost everything he had in one night.
Day one, this is what I was told. I told FEMA I was hauling trash, and I came in and I said, as I'm hauling, y'all build. And their words was, we can't build it, we can only tie into it.
And the
And
site,
now we're building them.
the site that they want to build in north of Earl's Place is 3 miles from his place. 3 miles.
I mean, and like
It's
I
got
said,
all the oxidation ponds in the world,
Right.
everything you need.
I'm not looking to get rich. Like I said, we can negotiate something with FEMA to where
And
we
it-
pay for the grid. I'm looking to get something, you know, I mean, it's not the point of a man looking for a gold mine.
And you
No,
talk about FEMA.
it's
Want to
about
tell
a
you how
man
smart
trying-
FEMA is?
It's about a man trying to get the
I
people
got-
back home.
I got 3 FEMA trailers that was just put below the floodgates. Below the floodgates. If y'all go to Fouchon, y'all gonna see it.
I got 3 FEMA campers in my camper park that's been sitting there since November, and they still didn't put nobody in it.
I tell you what, everybody's depending on FEMA. But I mean, that's how I feel. I'm not against any RV, whatever. Just utilize what you have before you build these things.
Right.
And I can tell you, I got 12 RV parks in my district, more than the whole parish.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Thank you, Mr. Plaisance. Just a reminder,
I'll be back for the FEMA.
next Tuesday, March 29th at 6 p.m. Mr. Araby.
Mr. Chasson, is there anything we can do as a council or as you are president with FEMA or recommend to FEMA or recommendations or whatever we can do to try to help these people out up and down the Bayou that has these trailer parks
Now, FEMA,
that already developed and ready to accept trailers and?
So we probably have about 140 FEMA, and when I say, so I want to distinguish between what everybody calls a FEMA camper. FEMA doesn't do, there are very few FEMA campers, right? Most of them are these 1, 2, 3-bedroom mobile homes that they're putting out. We probably have about 140 of those spread out across the parish in existing trailer parks. Tibu's got a bunch up in Grand Bayou. Taylor's probably got.
I just got one that
Taylor's got
showed up this week.
it. So there's a plan and I even talked to FEMA this afternoon. I think there's a plan to put 20 of them in the park, right?
We are in works. I mean, I can't knock them because we are starting to, they came and asked my wife, can you keep your dog on the leash? That way we can kind of work something out, because I was always one that bit because they do things with no.
So I don't know, so he's got a plan in the works to get him some more units, right? Now, why didn't we go build 1,000 pack? I don't know.
What's
I don't know
crazy-
if it's because look, we gave them a ton of different landowners and he was one of them. I don't know why they picked the sites they did. I think a lot of it's because of based on location. There's nothing around them. They wanted to put a park at the end of East 40th Street, and I denied it because of the traffic flow. We didn't want that many people coming up and down East 40th Street trying to get all the way to the back. So it becomes a functionally dependent use problem at some point. We don't want a whole bunch of traffic running up and down these residential streets.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, they're saying, but the fact that these are established places already, so whether it's FEMA trailers or whatever you want to call it, or if I go put a trailer in this place, it's still going to be traffic.
Look, and I think at the end of the day, FEMA would rather put them in existing trailer parks. I don't know how many spots Mr. Plaisance has. I know he's got, like I said, 20-something of them supposedly coming to him. But it becomes an issue of, we run out of trailer parks at some point. We still have, and these are
don't get turned back into
these are well, there's nothing that says these things are going to go back to natural ground. The
agendas that I read about it said that it can come back. It's going to be returned back to natural
the trailers themselves have to leave. If the landowner wants to turn that into a quote-unquote trailer park post FEMA, he has to meet all the planning and zoning requirements. But there's nothing to say that he can't let that gravel sit there and leave that infrastructure in place for the next hurricane. They did it in St. Charles Parish and a couple other ones after Katrina. So I think FEMA's overall goal would be to put them in the existing trailer parks. That's less money they have to expend. Our first directive to FEMA when they first brought in housing was to put them in people's driveways because we wanted people to be close to their home to be able to work on it. They've now hit the point where they're running out of people who can take a private site. These units get too big. They're trying to get them into something more substantial versus a camper for nights like tonight, right? So we're running into that spot where we need those bigger pads. The numbers they gave us Friday, we still have about 1,100 people who need some type of housing help. If we build all 4 of these sites that we released the public notices for FEMA, we're still 331 spots short of what we actually need to take care of the people who live here. And that's with existing parks and stuff like that.
My ponds are rated for 700 units, my oxidation ponds.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure got to get built around to make it there.
You got anything else, Mr. Harvey?
No, I'm just looking for a way to try to help these people out, you know. I mean, I know the people that need these camper trailers or trailer houses or whatever they need. I know they're in desperate need, and we need to find a place for these people to move in quick. But I'm also know that these guys here that built
All right, Mr. Melvin.
Yeah, thanks for coming again. I appreciate it. It kind of keeps us on our toes too and informed of what's happening out there.
Yeah.
So my question, Archie, would be, I mean, you know, apparently there's some willingness to help these folks. He's the one who put his blood, sweat, and tears into starting it years ago and is doing it. What authority and power do we have to direct FEMA, even though they're federal out-of-control bureaucracy in some aspects? I'm just trying to figure, is it between the landowner and FEMA?
Yep.
Is it out of our hand? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So this is, and I've beat this a dead horse all afternoon. Mr. Araby and I spent the afternoon talking about this fire in Raceland. We don't have any zoning in the parish, so we can't restrict where these trailers go. Outside of the 3 municipalities, Thibodeau has the strongest zoning laws, and it creeps down through Lockport and Golabetta. But yeah, if the landowners are willing to sign it, then there's nothing in theory that from a permitting perspective or a zoning perspective that we could do to stop it.
Yeah, I'd like to see a list of the landowners, if you don't mind. Can you email us that?
Yeah, there's
just what I like to
4
see.
landowners. There's 3
That's
sites
fine.
on one, and then there's a guy in Galliana. But
Okay.
yeah, I'll send them out.
Yeah, that's just fine, just to keep us aware of what's happening and supposedly who's being approached. I don't know.
Thank you,
I
Mr. Melvin, Mr. Chasson, and thank you, Mr. Plaisance.
I appreciate y'all hearing me again. I thank y'all, and I will be here with FEMA.
All righty, sir. And just another public announcement. That's next Tuesday, March 29th, 6 p.m. at the Lafourche Parish Council Chambers. Anyone else, Ms. Carly?
No, sir, that's it.
Item J, council reports, news, and announcements. Anybody with anything to discuss, talk about? Mr. Grow.
Yes. I know Robbie and I had put something out on our site, but April 9th, we have the hazardous waste materials pickup out here in the front for tires and batteries, light bulbs, stuff like that. So it's going to be from 8 to 12 on April 9th. I know they put something out March 9th. They'll put another post on the 24th and again the day of, according to Robbie. So just let everybody know.
Thank you, sir. Mr. O'Tang.
So I'm disappointed. I assume Mike was also going to mention the Bayou cleanup. The annual Bayou cleanup is the same day, same time as which is kind of good. They kind of go hand in hand. So anyway, the annual Bayou cleanup would also be that morning. And also I'll mention that there will be a glow run at the Lockport Community Center that night, April 9th. So 3 items going on April 9th. But yeah, amnesty, if you got any household hazardous waste here at the government building, now's your time. And we've missed it, I think, the last year or two. So I know I've gotten a few calls, so it's going to be April 9th. But thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Araby.
I just want to thank Fire District 1 volunteers for the little deal they put on this past weekend at the Ag Building in Racing, and thank all the general public for coming out and supporting them. They had a real good turnout and it was very successful for them. Thank y'all.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to item K. Public hearing and ordinances for ratification. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Chasson to open public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Adams. Okay, item number 5, ordinance requesting that traffic calming devices and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on St. Philip Street, Raceland, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 6, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? Public discussion. Second call, public. Third call, public. Council discussion, Mr. Groh.
Okay. I know you mentioned, President Chesson mentioned that the sheriff was going to match some funds. Are we trying to line up just a bunch of, because we had some stuff passed even with last administration that just sat, and I know we have, we encourage people to do traffic studies, and I know Councilman Araby did his due diligence with the traffic studies and all. Do we have a list running of ones that have been approved already? Or is there, we approved these 4 that he's got or whatever, and they just get in a pecking order?
Yeah, so what we did was when Councilman Jones and Councilman Araby started with the traffic studies on Waverly and then the Raceland streets, we went back and we pulled the old ordinance from, I want to say it was like 2018, 2017, when the last group was done. 95% of those we're taking care of. I think there's 1 or 2 left on that list that we got to go do. And then we're going to do Waverly and then all the streets for Mr. Araby. What we are trying to figure out now is how do we build them? We're looking at the existing ones that we have now, and we would run out of money fairly quickly. I think just to do the streets in Raceland was like $136,000 when we only have about 100 with our 50 and the sheriff. So we went back to looking at the asphalt option like we had done on Abbey to see if that was some cost savings. So yeah, we're going to do them kind of in an order. We're going to hit Jerry's first and then move. If we can do them out of asphalt, it's going to make sense that way. That way we can get one good price on a contractor to mow in and do them all at once.
As far as I guess my second question, I talked to Councilman Jones about this. If we have one that we want rescinded, are these things fairly easy to be relocated?
Yeah, so they bolt in. We just stab them with, the asphalt ones are not so easily removable, but the plastic ones are, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any discussion? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Adams. Item 6, ordinance requesting that traffic calming devices and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Market Street, Raceland, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 6, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion from the public? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Any council discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 7, ordinance requesting that traffic calming devices and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Greenville Street, Raceland, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 6, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Melvin. Any public discussion? Public comment, second call. Third and final call, public. Any council discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 8, ordinance requesting that traffic calming devices and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Io Street, Raceland, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 6, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Jones. Any public comment? Second call, public. Third and final call for public. Any council discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 9, ordinance approving an act of donation between the Lafourche Parish Government and the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office for 2005 F-250 trucks and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said donation and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby. Any public discussion? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Any council discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention being Mr. Wendell, and 1 absent being Mr. Adams. I have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Chasson to close public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item L, proposed ordinances. Ms. Chasson.
10, proposed ordinance requesting that traffic calming devices and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on St. Louis Street, Raceland, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 6, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Mr. Terry Araby. Number 11, proposed ordinance accepting the subdivision known as the Milltown Subdivision, Phase C, into the parish system. Michael Grove for administration. Number 12, proposed ordinance approving a servitude agreement between Renee B. D'Arcangelo, acting power of attorney for Emily D'Arcangelo, and Lafourche Parish Government in the Raceland area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Terry Araby for administration. 13, proposed ordinance accepting the subdivision known as Laurel Grove Subdivision, Addendum Number 1, into the parish system. Mr. Jim Wendell for administration. 14, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 6583 that approved a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-001 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget, increasing the budget for the Consolidated Appropriations Act and the American Rescue Plan funding in the amount of $342,357, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jerry Jones for administration. 15, proposed ordinance to dededicate the servitude agreement between Brady and Renee Morvant and Lafourche Parish Government in the Shoepick area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Jim Wendell for administration. 16, proposed ordinance providing for a 2021 supplemental appropriation 210-040 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to adjust for year-end projections to be in compliance with state budget requirements, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jerry Jones for administration.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chasson. Moving on to item M, resolutions. Item 17, a resolution reappointing 1 member, Lafourche Parish Fire Protection District Number 2 Board. Motion by Mr. Araby. Mr. Araby, who do you have?
One vacancy, reappointment Mr. Eric Benoit.
Mr. Eric Benoit. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item 18, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office for the donation of 2 2005 F-250 trucks, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relative documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention being Mr. Wendell, and 1 absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 19, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and South Central Planning and Development Commission for building code compliance services, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relative documents. Motion by Ms. Chasson, second by Mr. Otan. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item 20, resolution requesting Lafourche Parish Council to review and approve the selection criteria for Lafourche Parish Head Start children for the 2022-2023 school year, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relative documents. Motion by Ms. Shaswell, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item 21, resolution approving amendment number 4 to the agreement between Everbridge Incorporated and Lafourche Parish Government, extending the high-speed notification system for 1 additional year, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 22, resolution approving a contract between the Division of Administration and Lafourche Parish Government for the fiscal year 2020-2021, Office of Community Development, Local Government Assistance Program, LGAP, in the amount of $30,000, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said contract and any and all relative documents. Motion by Mr. Grow, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item 23, resolution appointing 2 members to the Lafourche Parish Community Action Advisory Board, elected public officials. Motion by Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, who do you have?
We have 2 applicants, Ms. Cheryl Thomas and Ms. Christine Babin.
Ms. Thomas and Ms. Babin. Can I get a second on that? Second by Mr. Ota. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item number 24, resolution appointing 2 members to the Lafourche Parish Community Action Advisory Board from the private sector. Motion by Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, who do you have?
We have Rhonda Dempster and Hillary Crump.
Ms. Dempster and Ms. Crump. Can I get a second by Mr. Otan? Any discussion on Ms. Dempster and Ms. Crump? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Still have about 12 minutes. So item N, parish president, department heads, directors or managers' reports, presentations, or updates. Item 25, finance representative to permit the monthly financial report is required by the state agreed upon procedures for February 2022.
Mr. Chairman, you guys should have all received an email with this quarter's financials.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody with any questions? Okay, item O, questions for the administration. Mr. Araby.
Yes, Mr. President, I know you've been getting some calls, and I know Councilman Wendell's been getting some calls, because that's his area, and I'm getting some calls also, and you kind of mentioned about 3. I guess in a way, nothing to do with that site. But we getting the calls. And I'm wondering if you can.
Yeah, so after I spoke to you and Mr. Wendell this afternoon, I reached out to both Josh McNair, who's an assistant secretary with DOTD, and also Seth Mathern, who's their DOTD debris coordinator. And literally at 4:50, Seth sent an email back, and basically the premise of my email to Seth was, we got to put some pressure on either the contractor or the landowner to fix it. Either bring in some equipment and spread this stuff out to get the smoke out of these people's houses. So Seth's response to me at 4:50 was that he's also talked to the fire department in Raceland, and that Mr. Araby has confirmed, not you, Mr. Araby, Mr. Araby, the landowner, has confirmed that he plans to have the necessary equipment on site and operating by 12 to 1 p.m. tomorrow. The equipment is currently being prepared for hauling first thing in the morning. Additionally, the winds will no longer be in the direction of the residence. It is north of Highway 90 by that time, according to the current weather conditions. Mr. Araby has also informed me that he personally pays for a special LSP detail for both directions of Highway 90, which Council Chairman Wendell noticed on his drive-in and let us know about to monitor the conditions and alert the vehicles. If the piles are too hot to operate equipment in without catching the equipment on fire, his crews will seek to use controlled amounts of water to cool the necessary areas just enough to operate the equipment. The winds currently forecasted should mitigate the potential for increased smoke from the equipment and in the houses. So hopefully by about 1 o'clock tomorrow, we're seeing some progress. If not, then we'll mobilize some parish equipment in and try to do the same thing, but I'm hopeful the landowner will take care of it.
Okay, because I was just what I was looking for. That was Plan A. I was wondering what we did with that stuff, and like I said, Judge Wendell got a bunch of calls on it. I want to try to see if we can get some.
Thank you, Mr. Irby. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Grove.
Yes, I don't know if it's, so item proposed number town accepting new subdivision. You see these come about here and there, and like the speed limit up to 20. That's flying down that street. I mean, where do I make an amendment at the next meeting to just set that new speed limit? Because I've lowered a lot of speed limits in these small these neighborhoods like this, a small street. I don't know where they coming up with that figure. I've taken a lot down to 20 or 15. I don't know if I could just do it on the front end for this, or just call Ms. Pat and see what they say.
Yeah, let us ask Pat tomorrow, and we'll try to figure out if you can amend it from the floor at the next meeting. I don't think we've ever done that before, so we'll figure it out, though, let you know.
I could amend. It says up to. I'd just like to say, put them at 15, or put them at 20. I mean, the streets from here to the parking lot. I mean, it's flying.
If it's a reference point, if it's an up to and we can just do it, we'll set it at 15 departmentally. But if we have to amend it from the floor, we can draw something up.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Melvin.
Yes, sir, thank you. Maybe Dylan, Archie, I was just wondering, I know it happened to me years back when I just kind of let them do the work in the fire hydrant. They went and dig up my yard, put a bunch of blackjack dirt replacing. It was horrible. My yard is still never the same. But I had someone call me this week. A hydrant was put and they left a mound of dirt. So who would be the contact, or who would have y'all send it to y'all and y'all call somebody, have them go level it? I mean, they got like a pitcher mound.
So the water district controls all of the fire hydrants and the water lines. So if you send them to the water district, they can call a Lockport office.
Perfect.
And Wayne or Tori will take care of it.
That's a good thing. I just wanted to make sure, so I follow proper protocols. So I know, Dylan, real quick, as far as tree trimming and branches, I'm just noticing, when are we going to start maybe having a regular pickup of tree trimmings and branches? I know we all worn out from the hurricane, but just people are, doing their spring stuff right now.
Yeah, so River Birch is back in action. They have the 5 grapple trucks running the parish right now.
Okay.
They are spread out throughout the parish. Our debris pickup, I'm sure Archie's going to touch on that later, but our debris pickup is over as of now. But River Birch is picking up everything. So the normal debris collection you have pre-storm is in effect.
Okay, and just real quick. Also, I know that you're working on some things for me for some residents, like on Fairway to Percy, et cetera, et cetera. I had a call from somebody in La Rose who I know because I'm originally from there. Do we know, I was told that there were concerns about the FEMA housing or whatever, whoever's doing it in the Rouse's parking lot. Like first they thought it was people from Afghanistan, then they think it's people from Honduras. I don't know. I mean, I was just asking. I'm just passing on. My point is it our local people or is it foreign local people?
So
I'm just asking.
I go back to what I said in the first, 5 minutes of the meeting. All of these sites, whether it's the Rouse's site or the 4 group sites they're looking at now, or the stuff existing in the trailer parks, is all Lafourche Parish residents. FEMA will not allow other parish residents to come in until all of our people have taken care of. And if you caught what I said, we're still going to be 331 spots short of what we need, even if we build all of these parks. So there's no way that other parish residents are coming in until that happens. Now, I heard the same rumor. At first, they thought it was Afghan refugees. It's all Lafourche Parish people. Now, that's not to say that there's not someone of Hispanic origin that's living in one of these campers. If they have a Lafourche Parish driver's license or something, then they can go in there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're taking care of our people and our citizens first, just to be sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Jones.
Yes, Mr. Lafourche, I know we talked about that hazard condition on Highway 3107, Talbot and King George. Can we see about looking into that this week?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna have somebody look at that tomorrow morning, and we'll figure out a plan of action.
Okay, mighty fine,
Yes, sir.
Just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, item P, Parish President's final comments. And sir, we do have 5 minutes before I have to interrupt you for public hearing.
So you tell me I got to take all 5 minutes, or that
Please
you're going
do.
to cut me off at 5? Okay. So if you guys, Councilman Melvin, to your point, if you guys check your inboxes, I just from Friday with FEMA that has all the numbers. Now, it's all the parishes, not just Lafourche, but you can find those boxes on the PowerPoint. It also has the map of the proposed group sites on it. So if you're trying to figure out what we call it the Valentine track or the McLeod track, which is how they reference it, it's on or the Trish site, it's on that group site map. As Dylan mentioned, the debris program, as we know it, what has been going on the last 7 months, ceased as of Friday. River Birch has taken over the entirety of the parish. We do know, and I know Councilman Lorraine gave some stuff to Mr. Shanklin that still needed to be picked up that they missed. I fully expect in about 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to have a ton of stuff from people who are still gutting their homes that have come to the road, and we're going to reactivate DRC. They're going to come in for a few weeks. They're going to grab all the big piles that River Birch can't handle with their trucks. Then they're going to disappear for another 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to have piles grow again. We're going to reactivate that. We're going to be doing this for another probably 6-8 months as people continue to gut their homes, get insurance payments. Cycle. There's just not enough for these guys fiscally to stay here. I think the last few days they picked up somewhere between 300 and 400 cubic yards, right? We cleaned up the back road. People kept dumping. There's still a few piles that showed back up. There's the stuff that Councilman Lorraine turned in. We have some one-offs. I think Councilman Chesson sent some stuff to Delin. If you guys see those, the best thing to do is to email them to us. We'll keep a track of it in solid waste. And then if it's something that's too big for River Birch, they're logging this stuff as they drive their grapple trucks around as well. We'll kind of keep a list of them, and when it gets to a point that it makes sense, we'll bring DRC back in. So residents are just going to have to be a little bit patient as that sort of stuff happens. You got a question while I'm on that?
Yes. Who's making the list? River Birch is going to do it, or?
So let's do
So if
both.
it's too big for River Birch, they're
Yeah.
going to let you know so they know to come in?
That's right.
Okay.
And if you guys see a pile or you get contacted like I do through Facebook, just email Sam and Bob and Dylan, and we'll add it to the list that we're compiling through solid waste with the people who are calling as well. And we'll just track it that way. When we get somewhere, a list big enough that's somewhere upwards of 5 or 7, 10,000 cubic yards, then we'll reactivate that contract, let them come in for a couple of days, clean it all up. The one problem that I am still worried about is the back road, because I'm not sure how much illegal dumping we're going to continue to have. And at some point, that's going to become a state problem. I mean, we can't continue to pick that stuff up forever. But street lights, we got a couple calls from LaRose and people down in Councilman Wendell's district in Pointe-Chan. We asked Energy for an overall update again today of where they are. I think the last one we got was 2 weeks ago, but specifically those 2 areas. So I'm waiting to get that. Once they do respond back, hopefully they hit reply all, and all of you are on that email chain, but if not, I'll make sure you get it. As Councilman Araby mentioned, big kudos to Raceland's Fire District 1, Choctaw, and Lafourche 308. They all had chicken dinners and fairs this weekend. They did a heck of a job. It was good to see them back in the parish. We hosted the National Biddy World Tournament in Thibodaux this weekend, which is where I was all weekend with the little 8-year-old basketball team. It was great to have all those folks from around the state in Thibodaux for that. And kudos to the South Lafourche 10-year-old girls who were in the championship game. Was supposed to be right now, but I think they got postponed due to the weather. But we're going to be cheering them on. And lastly, if you guys haven't seen it already, I don't know if you sent it out, Miss Corleen, but Student Government Day is going to be April 25th. We're going to do the same thing we typically do with bringing the kids here early morning. So if any of you want to come by and share wisdom, I know Councilman Otan is always here. Pass it on some leadership and motivation to those students. But we'll have them here and throughout the day on the 25th.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lorraine, you had a question?
Yes, there's no way that River Birch can keep up with the trash in South Lafourche. I'm telling you, there's no way, because, let me tell you why. It's very simple. They can only make 2 loads a day. One pile is going to fill up the truck. So I don't know what y'all going to do or what y'all not going to do, but there's no way that you can put 1 truck on the west side and 1 truck on the east side. It's going to take months.
So if you didn't hear me right, although they took over the entire parish, we know that's not. We know anything above, I think it's 5 cubic yards, they're not picking up anyway. They're making that list, and once we get to a point where we have enough piles to make sense for DRC's big trucks to be here, they're going to come back and pick all that stuff up.
Well, the problem
we're not
is,
gonna leave it
Archie,
hanging.
there's some piles from some of these businesses working for them, but then put on and you know why? Because we picked up the other ones. If we were not going to pick that up, we shouldn't have picked it up for nobody. And that's where we at. Now, the illegal dumping looked like it slacked off, but
I think it made a difference when we started to pick this stuff up.
River Birch cannot keep
Oh, I
up.
know. Yeah, and we know
No
that.
way.
We know that.
You do?
Yeah, which is
All
why
righty,
we're
gentlemen,
making
I'd
the
like to interrupt you. I have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Chasson, to deviate from the regular agenda to item H for 6 p.m. public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Item H, public hearing at 6 p.m. Motion by Mr. Jones to open public hearing to obtain citizen comments and respond to questions relative to performance by the parish and the implementation of its fiscal year 2018-2019 Louisiana Community Development Block Grant Program, LCDBG, for the installation of an 80,000 GPD aeration sewage treatment plant, renovations to 2 neighborhood lift stations, and repairs to the collection system in Marydale subdivision. Can I get a second on that? Second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion?
So, Mr. Chairman, as I noted in the agenda summary, this is just part of the grant requirements. I didn't expect anybody to show up from Marydale. I think they're all happy with the project, but this is just a requirement of the grant to give anybody that opportunity to talk about it if we need to have any corrective action on the project.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open that public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adam. Item number 4, public wishing to address the council. Anyone wishing to address the council? Come on up, man. Please make sure the microphone, the green light is on. Please make sure it's close to your mouth, and please state your name and address very clearly and slowly for the record so we can make note of it.
Sure, good evening. I'm Leslie Long with South Central Planning. I'm actually here on behalf of this actual public hearing for the Louisiana Community Development Project. We were actually the management part of it. And of course, it's just to give the public an opportunity, as President Archie Chasson stated, to give the public an opportunity to have any comments or questions. I think I have the engineer, Dylan. Yeah, Dylan's here as well. But of course, it's just so we can be able to close out this project. The project is completed. We just need to do the closeout documents and everything. And of course, this is one of the requirements.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak, wish to address the council? Second call, anyone wishing to address the council? Third and final call, anyone wishing to address the council? Okay, motion by Mr. Jones to close public hearing relative to the performance by the parish and the implementation of its fiscal year 2018-2019 Louisiana Community Development Block Grant Program, LCDBG, for the installation of an 80,000 GPD aeration sewer treatment plant renovations and 2 neighborhood lift stations and repairs to the collection system in the Marydale subdivision. I have a second by Ms. Chasson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. Have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Chasson, to return to the agenda item P, and resume the regular session meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Adams. President Chasson, were you done? All right. Motion by Mr. Gross, second by Mr. Jones, that with no further business, the Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting of March 22nd, 2022 be adjourned. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays.